Okay, so visualize a car that has a manual transmission, has 2 seats and rear wheel drive. I'll give you a second. All right, you clearly visualize the 2021 Isuzu D-Max SX single cab. You're watching another ProductReview.com.au in-depth look. My name is Cameron, and today we're checking out if this ute does more than just carry around your meat pies and your iced coffee. What you're looking at is the cheapest way into the D-Max family. If you want to see the most expensive D-Max you can buy, you can either click on the pop-up link above my head right now, or you can jump into the description to check out that review of the D-Max X-Terrain, which is closing in on nearly $70,000. This one here is $32,200, but currently Isuzu says they're running a special promo price of around $29,990 drive away, so it depends when you go to buy, but that's correct at the time of filming. This particular D-Max has been fitted with over $3,000 worth of optional extras. Those include some side steps to get up into the tray, you've got a welded mesh protector for your rear window, you've got under tray storage in the form of a lockable toolbox, you've got a under tray water tank and hand sanitizer or sunscreen container there, you've got rear light protectors, you've got a tow ball and tow hitch connector, and you've also got an electronic brake controller. Now let's talk exterior design, because obviously we're really talking about this part of the D-Max because this is where all the design's gone. The rest of it's mainly just tray. So going to the front, we only have halogen lights. We've also got this distinctive double fang grille, which is something that you see on all D-Maxes, and that's really it. There isn't much else to talk about here. Decent ground clearance, but it's all standard D-Max up the front. Now moving along the side of the D-Max, what do we have here? Well, starting from the front, we have steel wheels, which are back in fashion thanks to the Land Rover Defender. Behind those steel wheels, we have front discs, but we have rear drum brakes, which are fine for the application of load carrying and towing and all that for this D-Max. We have black side mirrors, which are made of plastic, which will take a few hard knocks and you won't have to worry about any paint chipping from this. You've got blind spot monitoring on the side. And what's cool is we've also got a weighting depth of up to 800 millimeters, which is standard across the Isuzu D-Max range. We have our optional side steps here, which make it easy to get into the back. And we've also got one of 2 under tray options. This is the water tank. We have a little pump here for all your hand sanitizer, sunscreen, or soap needs. And then we've also got a tap, which just unscrews and then feeds your water. Now, try and close this with one hand, I dare you, because it's not as easy as it seems. But then what you do have is a place to fill up for water on a hot and sunny day. Now, I would highly recommend washing this out a couple of times before you actually drink from it, because it does taste like a plastic water bottle. Trust me, I know. Now on the other side, we have a lockable toolbox, which is an optional extra, just nice to keep any items out of the cabin on the outside locked up and secured. Now while we're on the side, I'll show you what this rear tray looks like with its side down. So all you have to do is unclip the back tray to start that process, and then you unclip the side over here. It's all very light, so it's very easy to do this without creating a whole bunch of noise or worrying about, grabbing any fingers because it's too heavy. Now, what you do get here is a nice, easy access into your tray, and I was visualizing something like a forklift being able to get in here and lift pallets off the back with ease thanks to this side tray, but then the side tray comes up to keep them nice and secure when you're on the move. So I think this is a good tray. If you're looking for one that's just gonna do the job, I think Isuzu have got a pretty good offering here. Although it is really annoying when you've got to try and clip the rear end, because these clips are a little finicky when you're trying to close it with one hand and one person, but other than that, it's a pretty versatile tray. So here at the back of the Isuzu D-Max SX single cab, what do we have? Well, we see the tray ends here and we have Isuzu branding on the back because this is an Isuzu branded tray. We've got the optional rear taillight protectors, which I'd probably recommend if you want to see these stay in one piece. We've also got a step here, which isn't really practical to access, seeing as the tray sort of comes over the back here. So I don't know why it's still here, but maybe if you have a different type of tray, that will become useful. We have a rear camera back here. Nice to see that as standard on a base model like this. And we have all our towing equipment at the rear, which was optionally fitted as well. So what's the towing capacity like? Well, you're 750 kilos unbraked, which is pretty good. But then what's even better is that across the range, all D-Maxes will tow 3.5 ton, even in the rear wheel drive guys. So that's great. And if you need a tow brake, you will need this connector fitted and obviously the tow ball fitment. So I would recommend getting that option if you really want to make the most of the towing capacity of your D-Max. Now let's talk about this rear tray. We've got 2 pins here to release the back, and now we sort of make it difficult to get in the back because we've covered up the step and it's all behind this. So I'm going to use the optional side step, which is as easy as putting one foot there, hand up the top, and you're in. So here's the factory tray. Now, what are we measuring? So we're measuring 2,550 millimeters in length and then 1,777 millimeters in width. Now, what else is back here? Well, the load carrying capacity. The X-Terrain, which is the top of the range D-Max, can only carry just under a ton. Now this, because of its revised suspension, can carry up to 1.3 ton, which is seriously impressive and makes me very confident that you could put plenty of pallets back here with that forklift we were talking about earlier. Starting from the top, you have a nice carpeted roof that helps with sound insulation and plenty of headroom for someone of the size of 5'11", which is me. But if you're over 6 foot, you'll be just fine. You have some sun visors here which miss out on any mirrors, so just rely on that center mirror there to make sure you're looking good. You've also got a sunglasses holder here with some carpet in here. It's funny to think that they went through the effort to put carpet in your sunglasses holder, but no mirrors in the sun visor. Some lights up here, and these seats I'm sitting in are very comfortable. They're cloth, but they are not basic seats. They have nice shoulder bolstering, good headrest support, and they're comfortable as well, and some nice leg support there too. You have 2 grab handles here, which means things might get a little bit shaky. You've got plenty of things to hang on to, but you are missing out on the center storage cubbies that lived up on the top of the dash and on top of the glove box, which is a bit of a shame to see, but I mean, it's not great that they're gone because it's very hard to put items in here that aren't just going to slide around everywhere. You have speakers up the front here, which are okay. Yes, it's a little bit tinny listening initially, but you get used to it and it does sound all right when you're in here. You've got easy to access hazard lights and a 7-inch touchscreen, which is decent to use. It's got okay responsiveness, but more importantly, it comes with wireless Apple CarPlay, which is a lot of cars don't have that. So in a base model single cab like this, very impressive, but it's also got Android Auto as well, and you got access to different media controls and obviously the view for your camera out the back. You have a glove box here, which is lockable, which is nice to see, and you also have the Bible of the Isuzu Ute found in there as well. Take that out and you'll actually have some storage to use in there. And you can also disable the front airbag if you have any front child seats or any delicate items that you don't want blown up by an airbag in the case of an emergency. You've also got cup holders that poke out from the dash, which I missed out on my last review, so thank you so much for pointing that out, because I think these are kind of neat that they sort of hide away in the dash. But if you don't want to put your Dare Ice coffees there, you can also put them in your center cubbies here. Now below the screen we have some hard buttons which make it easy if you have gloves on or any gross materials on your hands to quickly access all the different information that you need. And below that we have very basic climate controls. And below that again, we have a 12-volt connector and a USB and auxiliary port, which are all protected to stop dust entering them and making them all gross. Nice little area for your phone just below the screen here. And we've also got hill descent control that helps get your car down nice and smooth a steep hill. A manual transmission, look at that. Very easy to use, and I actually really like using this particular manual transmission in this engine configuration because it's just so easy and very torquey, which makes gear shifts very seamless. We'll get to that when we're driving. As for its position, really easy to position your hand from the shifter back to the steering wheel, and the indicators are on the right, all correct, which makes it easy to drive around even a manual in bumper to bumper traffic. Now this steering wheel is telescopic, which allows you to adjust this easily and make anyone comfortable, again helping with that position between the shifter and the steering wheel. You have some cup holders here, manual handbrake, center storage in the cubby here, and you've also got an armrest there as well. On the right of my knee I've got traction control off, an electronic brake controller, and a little tiny cubby for any coins or keys. Now on the steering wheel itself, we've got media controls on the left and basic cruise control on the right, analog gauge and a 4.2-inch color display in the middle, which helps with reading out your digital speedo and also tell you which gear you are in and which gear you should be in, which is nice to do a bit of extra thinking for you when you don't want to be doing that when you're occupied trying to do other things. Now for interior storage, you would have thought that this was all the storage that you had in here, but no. What you do have, just like a sports car, is some behind seat storage. So I have a backpack back here, which is sort of filled with some different items in here, and you think, okay, I'm gonna have to compromise on sitting up super straight or having an actual driving position. Well, no, because you put the backpack back here, and the seat can fold all the way flat. Now nothing's being crushed back there because it's creating like a little triangle where bits and pieces can go in, and that's also where your jack is for lifting up this car in case you need to. Now, say if you have a toolbox and you don't want it sliding around the rear and it doesn't fit in that under trays toolbox that you fitted to the back of this, well, what you do is that you lift this passenger seat like this one, and this is our toolbox example. It's a piece of camera equipment and it's not going to deform easy, similar to a toolbox. And look, I don't want to leave that in the back, it's going to slide everywhere. Someone might steal it at the traffic lights, so I'm going to put it behind the seats. And you think, okay, great, passengers going to have to be compromised. Nope. They sit just as normal as the driver, even with a bigger box like that. So if you need interior storage, there is some to be had on the inside, even behind the rear seats. So what do you get when you buy a base model Isuzu D-Max? Well, you don't get the base model engine or a middle of the range engine. What you get is the same engine that the top of the range D-Max X-Terrain is fitted with, the 3-litre 4-cylinder turbocharged diesel motor, and it puts out 140 kilowatts and 450 newton meters of torque. Now, that is very impressive for a base model truck, especially for one like this that's rear-wheel drive and single cab. To have 450 newton meters and 140 kilowatts in a car that weighs less than 2 ton, that is plenty of power for day-to-day driving, and of course the 3.5 tons of towing and carrying 1.3 ton in the tray. Now, as I always say, it's always nice to look at the motor, but let's just see how this thing drives. So sure, we've got one of the most powerful ute engines in the single cab segment, but how does that translate to on-road driving? Well, straight away what you notice is that when you're not carrying 1.3 ton in the back, the ride's a little bumpy. It's just something to expect when driving around on leaf springs that aren't loaded up like these ones should be. Now, visibility is pretty good. I'm pretty confident driving this through narrow sections of road, and paired with this low and torquey gearbox and engine, I'm absolutely fine in terms of navigating around the city. I have no issues driving here. I mean, like, gear changes are absolutely seamless for a big engine like this one. I actually really enjoy driving this car because it's a bit of an event. I mean, obviously you don't want cars like this to be events. You want them to be as trouble-free as possible because you're going to be doing lots of kilometers in them. But I tell you what, if you're driving around in a city, suburbs like this one, you're going to be just fine navigating, even if you're carrying a whole bunch of stuff out the back. Now, in terms of the driving experience with this manual transmission, as I mentioned, it was pretty easy, and I can be in fourth doing 40 k's an hour, nearly 50 k's an hour, and having no struggles at all. This engine is more than capable of driving around town without having to rev the nuts off it. Now, those driver aids have been fantastic, especially that rear camera and that rear cross traffic assist. Now, while driving along here, the other one that's been going off a fair bit has been the automatic brake detection. So there's a little LED strip that lights up on the dashboard, which is only activated when you're in an emergency setting. I say emergency with inverted commas because it's not really always an emergency when it deploys. It's quite sensitive, but I guess it's for the better, but it can be a little bit annoying when you're driving and say a car's slowing down in front, you know they're about to turn in, you start accelerating to move around them, and the car starts freaking out. Now, should you buy one of these? Yes, if you're a business. If you're a business, your occupants are going to be comfortable and safe. There's plenty of capacity from this motor and plenty of load carrying capacity in the rear as well as towing. So great vehicle for that. Buy a couple of those, you'll be fine. If you're an individual, I would probably stay away from this particular spec because it's only a 2-seater, and if you want items other than a passenger as well, they're going to have to be living in that tray, and you have to buy a tray cover or anything to sort of lock items up in the back, and it's also not four-wheel drive, so it makes it for a bit of a lame off-roader if you want to take it off-road camping, which is what I could imagine you'd want a car like the D-Max to do when you're not working during the week. So that means I would definitely spend a bit more money to get the all-wheel drive system in this, and either the extended cab or the dual cab to make it far more appealing to the individual who's going to use this as their everyday car. Now, if you own a D-Max, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Leave a review on productreview.com.au because I'd love to see how these go over the long term, especially the new generation. Consider subscribing because it really helps out with the channel and it lets us know that you want to see more reviews just like this one. My name's Cameron. This has been a Product Review in-depth look. Thank you so much for watching.